Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program at the crossroads of religion and life. A series of programs highlighting the social and cultural interaction between the worshiping and larger communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Conference of Churches in cooperation with KTBC. Join us now in today's Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Barbara Holmes, your host for today's Austin Faith Dialogue, brought to you by the Austin Area Conference of Churches in cooperation with KTBC. Who cares for children of all ages while parents work has become a prominent issue discussed by politicians, industry executives, concerned parents, and child caregivers. That's because an increasing number of parents need child care. In a report published in the Austin Children newsletter, it stated that nearly 70% of all women with children under the age of 18 work outside the home. Almost half of the mothers with children under the age of 1 work outside the home. Family incomes are declining. Only one job in 4 can support a family of 4, and this means most families need 2 incomes to survive. 2/3 of the women in the workforce are either the sole support of their household or married to spouses who earn less than $15,000 a year. And finally, 24% of the children in the United States live in single-parent homes. More often than not, they live in poverty. This situation of declining family incomes, the stress of balancing the role of a nurturing parent with the role of a productive worker, and a fragmented and chaotic system of child care creates difficult choices for families today. A glance at the yellow pages in the Austin phone book will reveal 4 pages of listing under the heading of child care. There are numerous church programs listed, such as the one you're viewing now at Gethsemane Lutheran Church. There's also specialties such as sick child home care that's offered by a hospital, and a whole array of services from transportation to nutrition and the facilities and extracurricular activities. But are these existing child care facilities meeting the needs in Austin? What about quality and cost? These are some of the questions we'll talk about with our guests today, and they'll bring their expertise from their professional perspective as child caregivers. Let's meet them now. I'd like to introduce Alberta Shelton, the Community Relations Director with Extendicare, and this is Lois Gamble, the Director of the Hyde Park Baptist Church Child Development Center. And this is Rhonda Paver, the Executive Director of Stepping Stone Schools. And we're very grateful that you took time to be with us, and hope that you'll be able to provide some information about what child care exists in Austin and some things for parents to know about child care. Let's learn a little bit about the programs that you represent and the spectrum that is available here in Austin. Alberta, give us a capsule of what is Extendicare. What is the program?
Extendicare was born about 19 years ago as a mission project of the Hyde Park Presbyterian Church, when a number of the members saw that there was a need for after-school child care for elementary-age children of working parents. In those 19 years, we have now expanded to 33 centers all over the city of Austin. And we are doing this on a sliding fee scale so that the parent's ability to pay is taken into consideration when their fee is set. We have been recognized nationally in the Christian Science Monitor and recently recognized in a book called 8 Model Child Care Programs in the state of Texas.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I know it is an old, well-established program and one that looks after the latchkey child,
That's
those
right.
during school. Lois, as the director of the program at Hyde Park Baptist, the Child Care Center is part of its total educational ministry. Tell us a little bit about the philosophy and the goals that you all are after in your child care.
The center was established in 1968 to meet the needs of parents who must be away from their children during the day. We have an enrollment of 265 children. 165 of these are preschoolers. 100 are elementary children that we provide care for after school and during the summer. It's our goal to try to meet the needs of these children socially, emotionally, cognitively, physically, and spiritually.
And you mentioned summer care. Alberta, let me jump back to you and ask, the latchkey is after school care, but you run a summer program also?
Yes, we do, from 7 to 6 for 10 weeks and then a week of camping.
So that there are several kinds of after-school care available. It's part of the total program there. Rhonda, you are the director of the Stepping Stone Schools, and you must have looked at the situation in Austin and been aware of the needs of child care that led you to establish your school. What were some of the factors that led you into making that decision?
The original Stepping Stone School was established in 1979, and it was at that point in time born out of some personal needs that I had as a mother of 3 preschoolers, and being unable to find what I considered quality care for my own children. At that point in time, the schools began as a very small venture with 1 center. Now we have an enrollment of over 450 children between 3 centers that are established and 2 private after-school programs. But I would say that the initial motivation behind the establishment of the school was the frustration that I was feeling as a parent about separating from my children on a daily basis and my inability to find a quality environment for them. It's not to say that quality environments were not available, but they were not accessible.
Well, that's part of the questions that we want to talk about, because the frustrations that you've experienced have multiplied by the number of people that are needing child care. And there are a number of centers available. I was surprised to learn when I called the Department of Human Resources that they have a directory of licensed daycare facilities that is quite extensive. And then they also have a directory of registered family homes. So that you've heard 3 kinds of child care that is available, and registered family homes are another one. I know that the city of Austin has some plans to work with employers to offer child care, and we're going to visit about that a little more also. But Lois, when you talked about the philosophy at Hyde Park Child Development Center, what are some of the concerns that you have when a child comes into the center? You mentioned physically, emotionally, cognitively.
Well, I think children come in with less concern than the parents have, and our biggest task is to match philosophically with the parents. There's a broad spectrum of services offered in the city in terms of philosophy, and it's important that a parent make a choice that they're comfortable with.
Well, all centers that are listed in these directories are licensed, but that really doesn't talk much about quality. Now, what you're talking about, the philosophy, when a child care center is licensed, what are those basic standards? What are their concerns?
Those are basic minimum standards that are set by the State Department of Human Services, and they are listed in this little booklet that is available to anyone from the Department of Human Services. Very basic health, safety, ratio, space, those sanitation measures that each center must abide by. Now, beyond that, quality is determined by the administration or administrator of a program. We used to discuss that back and forth among early childhood professionals. We no longer have to do that because the National Association for the Education of Young Children has developed some criteria that distinguish quality programs. And those are available through the NAEYC, the Washington office, and they have a toll-free number if anyone's interested in getting information from them.
Now, what is that booklet you have there?
This is called Developmentally Appropriate Practice. They have put this out in connection with their accreditation process. It states what is good for young children. There's no longer the guesswork of do we set them down at a desk to do pen and paper work, or do we let them play? That's very specific here. It says inappropriate practice and appropriate practice in this booklet.
So that, do parents have access to that?
They do.
Or you all talk about that, and a school is accredited?
Well,
A center can be accredited with the Childhood Center?
the NAEYC has the accreditation process now that is a voluntary self-study process. If a center chooses to go through that and meets the criteria, then they are awarded accreditation.
And I understand that in a volunteer capacity, you have, you're a volunteer, accreditor, validator is the word?
Yes. When a center applies for accreditation, once they've completed the self-study, then validators visit that center and see if they agree with the rating that the center has sent in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a judgment call. It's just saying, we agree. We see these things in your center that you say are there.
Mm-hmm. When we were talking about facilities, the basic health standard sanitation, Alberta, the extended care program is totally in elementary schools.
That's correct. We are housed in 33 elementary schools around the city of Austin, in Eanes Independent School District and in Austin Independent School District.
33?
Yes.
Well, what are some of the factors that determine where extended care locates? Do you do some sort of a survey in the neighborhood before seeing about locating there?
We go by invitation. Normally, the parents in an area will say, hey, a lot of us are working and we need child care out here. They'll go to the principal, and the principal will say, yes, let's try to do that. I have a space, we can put the program in, and then they come to us. The principal, of course, has the final say on what is housed in their schools and if they have room for our program and a place to put us. Then they'll say to us, we'd like to have the program in this area. Then we will do a survey to be sure that there is a need there. And if there is, then we will start a program. We have to go through the licensing process and hiring staff and training and buying equipment, etc. We're usually housed in the cafeteria of most schools.
So the facilities of the school meet those standards for just basic licensing, but you still have to go through that process of being licensed.
Yes.
Well, I want to change the subject for a minute and ask Rhonda about her involvement with Austin Child Care Connection. The City of Austin has established a Child Care Commission in the last year. Why don't you talk about that and what the Child Care Connection is?
Actually, I need to back up just a little on that. About 3 years ago, the city looked at, established a mayor's task force to look at some of the problems that were inherent in Austin's community with regard to child care. The Child Care Commission was born out of the mayor's task force. The Child Care Commission is an approximate 15-member board that speaks to and addresses policy issues within the city of Austin. Their meetings are held monthly, and out of the Child Care Commission was born a nonprofit corporation called Austin Child Care Connection. The reason for the inception of the connection was the ability to raise funds and monies, thereby promoting some of the projects that the connection would like to see implemented in Austin. And I can go through for you what some of those priorities are if you would like.
Well, Yes.
Okay.
Does the city does not plan to get into child care direct services?
No.
You're talking about policies.
Right, I'm talking about, right, exactly. Some of the projects that the Commission has established have been things like a children's art contest, and really they were very instrumental in the establishment of the Connection also. The Connection is really the enabling body, the implementation part of the Commission. And the Connection is comprised of a 20-member board of individuals who are seeking to hook up with various business entities also for the establishment of an overlay of child care that is somehow subsidized or related to some business interests within the community.
So that would be one of the city's goals, is to have employers more sensitive to this issue.
Exactly, yes. That is certainly one of the goals of the Connection as well as the Commission, is to increase awareness of employers as well as the general public about the needs basically of their private entities, but sort of the general needs that are within the city also.
Well, we're talking about the possibility of improved child care and maybe perhaps more, but let's talk a little bit about the cost of child care. It is inevitable. The child care facility, there are just certain expenses that have to be met, and I hear one of the major concerns about child care is being that of affordability, and I guess I'm not quite sure what is affordability, because it is going to be an expense for a family. There's just no way around that. Now, you mentioned that Extendicare has a sliding scale, and there may be programs with scholarships. Are these very common?
No, they are not common. I doubt that there are more than 4 or 5 in the city of Austin. I can't offhand think of more than 3. It's very difficult and complicated to get funding to run a subsidized program in Austin, and their need is there, but the money is not always.
So those are few and far between.
That's true.
Well, and as the parents look at cost, Lois, what are some of the things that they might look for so that the quality is still there, but there may be some programs that offer options that would make a difference in the cost?
That's right. Parents need to know where that money goes. They need to know what % of a budget goes to teachers' salaries.
Mm-hmm.
That says a great deal about the quality of the program, because if the teachers are paid fairly, they're likely to stay. And that's where the program makes it, is with a classroom teacher and the child. The second largest item in most budgets is food. So centers that provide a noon meal, the parents are going to have to pay for that convenience.
And they can ask about that.
Right.
They need to ask those hard questions. Just what does my child care service dollar buy? Some schools, I noticed, provide transportation. Rhonda, haven't you done a look at some of the cost range that's available in Austin?
Recently, I conducted a survey of tuition costs throughout the city, in fact, as recent as last week. And I found that, as I expected, there was a range in the price of care, but some of the questions that I asked as I conducted the survey had to do with the services that were intrinsically provided by the cost of care, such as lunch. Some programs address services like gymnastics or swimming or some other addendum kinds of programs. So I think it's very important as parents pursue their search for child care that they are sure to ask those kinds of questions.
When you talk about parents, it seems to me that we're talking about there is a degree of parent education that needs to take place. In the programs that you are familiar with, is there a degree of parent involvement built in? Alberta, is there a parents' council, or do the teachers have sessions with the parents?
Yes, shortly after our program begins in September, there will be a parent meeting, and that is an opportunity for the parents to get acquainted with the staff and to sit down and talk about what is going to go on in the center that year and to look at the curriculum that's been developed for the program that year. And then from that group, they will elect 2 to 3 members to be on the citywide Parent Advisory Council, which will meet 4 times in the year with the staff of Extendicare, and they have input directly into the program, and their president is a member of our board of directors. so they have a voting voice on our board of directors.
So because of the numerous locations, the 33 schools that you mentioned, you have a citywide parents group.
That's right.
And you help them understand the quality of the care the child receives also.
Yes, and we try to do some parent education things too. We've offered things on parent training and just information for parents about things that are happening with children and activities in Austin that are available, just general parenting tips and things like that.
Well, in our conversation, Lois, you mentioned a book, A Parent's Guide to Austin, and I'm sure there's a number of resources. Do you all try to have some parent education or have them involved in any way?
That is vital. We cannot take over the parenting role. There are certain things parents are still going to need to do, and sometimes we have to remind parents of that. We have scheduled parent-teacher conferences twice a year, and beyond that, the classroom teacher can call a conference, the parent can call a conference. We have parent training, parenting skills. There must be a clear understanding between caregiver and parents. How are we going to guide this, provide guidance to this child? Let's be consistent so he's not confused. In addition, of course, we have open houses, that sort of thing, and we have parents to participate in field trips, bring their hobbies into the classroom. We have grandmothers come in. Any way we can involve the parent, they're a part of this program.
I know some programs, there are some programs in town that are parent cooperatives where on a rotating basis the parents take turns acting as staff, and that does help to hold down the cost, and I guess a lot of education takes place there too. But Rhonda, in light of some of the information that you found about the services that were provided for the child care dollar, what are some questions a parent ought to ask about what will my child receive at this center or school or development center?
First of all, I think it's very important that parents feel that they are investigating child care in terms of the kind of quality that they're seeking. The matchup, there's a wide spectrum of child care centers in Austin offering a wide spectrum of services. The matchup between the individual parent-child relationship and the center is very important. Parents need to adopt, however, an approach that I feel is somewhat investigative. They can do many things to check out the qualitative nature and the history of a center. They can certainly talk to the members within the community about the reputation that the center has. They might want to speak with some other parents at the center. They might want to call the Department of Human Services and check on the records of the center. Any center that is licensed by the department is going to have a history with the department. They also should be very sure to talk to the staff members who are the administrative staff about the longevity and the qualifications of the caregivers.
That's what Lois was referring to.
Which I just feel is absolutely critical. Many centers are plagued by poorly trained caregivers with high turnover rates. That is not qualitative care. And those are the kind of questions that parents need to be sensitive to. Other kinds of things like type of food served, menus planned, so forth, may be also asked. But the real quality of the center is determined by the interactions of the caregivers with the children.
And I
that's
suppose
essential.
you would encourage parents to drop in and visit
Always.
if they could.
Yes.
That's absolutely necessary.
When you talked about a wide range of services from the perspective that you have, do you see any big gaps in child care service in Austin as a whole, like specialized infant care need, or do you know of any gaps that exist, or you think services are fairly adequate?
No. One of the areas that has not really been addressed is that not all women work from 8 to 5. We have nurses that work evening shifts, and we have waitresses that work evening shifts, and those people have a really tough time finding child care if they don't have a family member that can do it. We know in Austin, for example, that there are about 10,000 boys and girls in elementary school who go home alone after school because there is no service for them or the parents can't afford it. We're serving 1,500. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
So, schedules other than 8 to 5. Well, in conclusion, I'd like to hear just a little bit from you all. It is just astonishing how child care has become a human service industry in the last 10, 15 years. And Rhonda, quickly, what do you see in the future for child care? Do you think there will be increased child care facilities available to meet some of these needs?
Yes, I do. I see the future in a very positive framework, but it's going to require a tremendous amount of energy and commitment on at all levels. I see a tremendous amount of awareness that is increasing at a national and a local and a regional level that can only make things better in terms of quality. I see businesses having an increased awareness and thereby an interest in providing some sort of subsidy or some sort of means by which they can assist their employees in the implementation of child care. So I'm very excited about the future.
That's a good word. What about you, quickly?
We've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go, and we've got to stay with it. Employers need to recognize parents' needs for maternity leave, for sick days off with their children. We've got to maintain our family. We've got to have cooperation between parents and caregivers and mutually understanding what one another is doing. And I'm going to dream really big, and I'm going to dream that someday very soon, we're going to have classroom teachers' salaries at a point that those classroom teachers will stay in the classroom.
Oh, that's a wonderful dream to hold on to. How about you, Alberta?
I think employers need to become conscious that they have a role in this. If they have a happy employee and a content employee because their family situation is all right, they're going to have a better employee. So I think we're going to see change in the workplace. I think we're going to see more flex time. I think we're going to see more job sharing. I think we're going to see more work at home, different schedules for families. I think that it's going to be real innovative and exciting in the next few years.
Well, you all have brought such knowledge to this. I'm sure viewers have just picked up a lot of information, and we're so grateful. Thank you for being with us. And wanted to mention also that the City of Austin Child Care Commission does have a videotape that was produced by the Channel 6, and it is available. There are other resources available. We would encourage you to do the kind of investigation and research that our guests have talked about. This question is a very important one to the future because of its impact on our children now. So we thank you for joining us. I'm Barbara Holmes with the Austin Faith Dialogue. Good day.